Welcome in to the 57th episode of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. My name is Joel, and my co-host Ben Clay.
What's going on, guys?
Episode number 57. Ben, they may be saying, hey, this is the last episode before we talk week 0, actual, fundamental, real-life college football, and they would not be incorrect.
No, and I'm glad it is not incorrect.
Dude,
I'm ready.
I'm glad too, man. I'm ready to freaking watch some ball. New setup here in the background. Got the mini fridge rocking and rolling. Got the ESPN College Football Encyclopedia from a couple years back. And we're back. University Traditions hat up front. Couple helmets to set the scene. And if you're listening, you're probably a little bit confused. But go tune in on YouTube once you're done listening. See the scene. Check it out. Like and subscribe over on YouTube. But been a brief week already. Yeah. We finished up Monday. Went back to school last week. I know we both got absolutely draining, I guess would be the word, headaches right now.
Yeah.
And it could be from me screaming at the top of my lungs when I say welcome in.
Oh, yeah, I've had it since this morning. So
I know, I've had it since this morning as well. I think I caught it at like 7:30 in the morning, and it's hung with me for just about 12 hours. If we both have COVID-19, that would be unfortunate. I don't think I do,
though. Maybe like one more week.
Because I'm not sniffling, and I'm not coughing, and I don't feel sick.
I am sniffling, but I don't think I'm sick.
Oh, boys. Yeah, my headache's not very good. We did running. We ran. Did some conditioning and stuff like that. And my brain was jiggling around in my head. So that's how it felt. That's how it felt.
Yeah,
but I'll ask you how your week's been here in just a second. Like I said, next episode, number 58, we will be talking actual college football, probably week 0 picks and predictions, a little bit of look ahead onto what's going to be going down 2 weekends from now. But you're on episode 57, the last of its kind, the last preseason, off-season episode of this year. We've got top 5 quarterback and running back duos in college football, a bang to end it out, and we got 3 more team previews. Reactions have been good listening-wise. Decent amount of views on the team previews and stuff like that, and definitely a decent amount of views on the last video with Dante Thornton. Obviously not game-breaking stuff, but not bad at all. We do appreciate the love and support over there. But those 3 teams, Ben.
Yeah.
Those 3 teams. We've got 2 Pac-12 teams that are soon to be Big Ten teams. That's the Washington Huskies and the Oregon Ducks. And then we talk about the team that my Tennessee Vols took down in the Orange Bowl last year, baby. The Clemson Tigers are our 3rd team to preview here on episode number 57. But, Ben, we will get to all that. We're going to start with top 5 quarterback running back duos. But before we get into it, most importantly, how has this past week been treating you, brother?
Well, I mean, that we haven't been on since school started. So, I mean,
yep.
School has started, and it is rough. We had a 4-week week last week, and I mean, dude, it was 4-day week. Why did I say? The headaches
and it's begun. Yeah, and it's begun.
The 4-day week, I mean, that thing was super long, and it was only 4 days. This week is going to be a test. I guarantee you it'll be a test.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough one.
Yeah, like me and Drew was saying, I mean, if you play sports, you know that team conditioning time is kicking in, and man, it is kicking.
And especially if you don't play football in the fall, like if you play basketball or you play baseball or you play soccer or you play any of those sports, like it's really just straight conditioning if you don't play football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is rough, definitely a rough season, but we're kind of kept alive talking college football here on episode 57 of the show, something we both look forward to for sure. So, like I said, Ben, to kick off this episode, we've got our top 5 quarterback running back duos in college football. Definitely going to be a fun subject, and we got 3 team previews. We're going to get ourselves out of here. Should be a fun little episode, quick little episode to quench the thirst of college football taste in people's mouths this preseason, and then and then, like I said, week 0 stuff coming at you. But Ben, I think the best idea is to go 5-1 here.
Yeah,
5-1. And I will say next week, I think we should do preseason top 10s alongside our picks and predictions and stuff like that. So that will probably go down.
Yeah. I would say top. Yeah.
I would say preseason top 10s. We got our top 25 list.
It's very debatable, so I mean, it's fine.
Top 25 list. Those will go out on Instagram and Twitter. Alongside, I think I'm going to make a quick little video to go over on TikTok for both of our teams, or our 25 teams and stuff like that. So keep a lookout for that. Make sure, before we get into the episode, quick little plug, follow us over on Twitter. I think we're at 325 followers, so make sure to keep getting that number up. If you're listening, watching, not followed, make sure to do it. It's at @so_boy_sports on Twitter. So we've exceeded 100 over on Instagram. Shout out to Dante Thornton. He posted us over on his story. Definitely did us some justice. So shout out to our boy Dante. If you haven't listened to that interview, after you're done listening to this one, go back, check that one out. But if you're not following on Instagram, at Southern_boy_sportspod, and check us out over on TikTok at So_boy_sportspod. Like and subscribe over on YouTube. And now that those plugs are out of the way, now that we've got the branding out there, Ben, we're going to go top 5 quarterback running back duos in college football. We both kind of have a honorable mention to mention, and I think they're both in common. Yeah. So go ahead, you give the first one, I'll give the second one, and then we'll hop into the top 5 list here.
So I'll give the one, because you sounded excited about this one duo that I didn't name. I'm going to go with the Oregon Ducks here, who we will talk about.
Good.
Future episode, or in the future this episode. Bo Nix, clearly, he was a debatable Heisman contender last year. I mean, he had a great year overall. Bucky Irving, and you can probably put Noah Whittington in that conversation too.
Honestly, yeah.
So, I mean, great quarterback and 2 great running backs behind him.
Yeah, friggin' love Oregon. Honestly, I could slide him in here at number 5. I think the running back for my number 5 team really puts him over the top, or I guess a duo of running backs. But, man, they're definitely top 10, definitely probably top 6 or 7, honestly, and debatably top 5. So we understand the concern there if you're listening and screaming at us in the car.
Sorry.
My honorable mention, I guess the honorable mention that we had in common is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Ben.
Yeah.
Talked about him a couple episodes back in an individual team preview. So go check that out if you're a Notre Dame fan interested in hearing about him. We did cover him a couple episodes back. But, yeah, I mean, Audric Estime and Sam Hartman, 2 guys that I absolutely adore. And I think they're going to be really good in the backfield for Notre Dame this year.
Yep.
Obviously, Sam Hartman, dynamic passer last year, or the past couple of years, I should say, Wake Forest. Audric Estime has been a beast in the backfield, and especially losing Logan Diggs to LSU, he's going to be running back 1 clear and away. So, like both those guys, I honestly do. But number 5 is debatable. Like I said, I think the running backs definitely put him over the top. I know our list definitely varies a little bit. So if
our 5 is different.
Okay, so if you want to kick us off, start us with number 5. I don't think you have my number 5 on your entire list, so it should be fun to start us off.
Oh, yeah.
Something a little bit different. But go ahead, Ben. Shoot us with your number 5.
Number 5, I've got probably a top 2 back in college football right now. And the quarterback is solid. So I've got Jackson Dart and Kinshad Judkins.
Yeah.
Kinshad Judkins definitely carries the load here, and I mean it's so hard to keep him off of any list that has an RB in it.
Sure.
And so I mean he's just been great overall. Dart has shown potential. I mean he's been a solid QB. And an Ole Miss team that's looking for him to jump up this year.
Yeah.
I think this duo could be something nasty.
Well, this duo was something nasty if you
Could be something even more nasty.
if you kept up. I don't know how you would keep up, but myself kept up with the college football revamp dynasty I did with Ole Miss. Jackson Dart was a borderline college football freaking greatest player of all time, and Kinshad Judkins was an absolute inhuman player. He set multiple rushing records in the NCAA. So
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean definitely a little bit higher on him than Benjamin is. I won't spoil it, but I do like Kinshad Judkins and Jackson Dart. Let's get into my number 5. Let's go to the Big Ten. It is J.J. McCarthy. I'm kidding. It's Drew Aller alongside Nick.
Did you mess up, or was that
No,
a joke?
it was a joke. Alongside Nick Singleton and Katron Allen in the backfield. And honestly, man, like I said, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and especially Nick Singleton. I mean, the dude was a youngster last year and absolutely lit the college football world on fire. I really, really like the guy. I mean, he really did carry a load in this Penn State offense. And I know people are going to be mad. Oregon, Notre Dame, college football fans, you may be mad that we didn't have Bo Nix and Sam Hartman and their dynamic duo.
Confused.
But Drew Aller, man, I like the guy.
I mean, I know you like him, but he hasn't proved anything.
He hasn't proved anything.
Bo Nix has definitely proved more.
Yeah, no, Bo Nix has proved something. But I'm going to take the upside, and I'm going to say that if Drew Aller is that guy, Drew Aller is good enough to win this team 11 and 12 games. I think this duo in the backfield will be one of the nastiest in college football. Throw in Katron Allen, who was 800 yards on the ground last year, and really did fill in third down back. Nice, just a really good red zone back last year for Penn State. And I know I'm going to get hated on for this one, but I think Nick Singleton, Katron Allen really carry the load, primarily just because, like you said, Ben, have not seen Drew Aller play. But this is a little bit off topic. Not really, though. I mean, Sean Clifford, preseason football demon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been lighting it up in the preseason for the Packers.
I mean, yeah, okay. Sean Clifford, sure.
Sean Clifford, and you know who else went off? From inside the Big Ten, Aiden O'Connell.
Did he really?
Yeah, for the Raiders.
I knew DTR did.
Yeah, DTR had a really good preseason.
For the Raiders?
No, or Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders. Yeah, DTR obviously for the Browns.
I really don't pay attention to where quarterbacks go.
I mean, honestly, he could surprise the world. Start over Jimmy Garoppolo this year. I hate when people do that, though. I really do. Like, I know I was kind of hating on Will Levis, but, like, I'm not saying,
Dude, he was hating.
Will Levis is not. I mean, he's former Penn State
I
QB.
Swear, I was like, I understand what you're saying, but the Tennessee bias in there was so heavy.
And maybe it was, but I mean, dude, he played like garbage.
No, he was terrible pocket awareness.
He took 4 sacks and threw an interception.
So did Malik Willis.
Like, what did you see out of him that was like, okay, this guy's got really high potential?
Just something stupid.
He literally threw the ball to 4 defenders.
You go out there and play quarterback.
I'm not saying I can do any better. That's why we're the armchair quarterbacks here on Southern Boy Sports. But I'm just saying, anyways, I do hate when people overreact to preseason and stuff like that. And I know that's kind of people's jobs, and I know that, like,
I know what you did.
Whatever, but, like, I mean, sure. But I don't think – I mean, I'm not saying Will Levis is going to be a bust. I've said that.
Malik Willis was better than him. So.
Will Levis did play not great, and I think Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill are obviously better quarterbacks. But I'm not saying –
Will showed potential.
Like, people are saying C.J. Stroud's going to be out of the league and, like, a bust, and, like, because he played one preseason game and didn't play great.
Yeah, he played one game.
Yeah, so I would say –
Victor Wembanyama was trash in his first summer league game.
That's still debatable on it. He got an 84 in 2K. I know
this is the same rating as Paolo Banchero.
I know.
That's unbelievable.
I know this is a college football show, but the 2K ratings, the Madden ratings, always a little bit debatable.
Always. Why? Just get us to do it.
It'll be and it'll definitely be something to talk about when the EA Sports College football ratings come out. EA better not mess those up, bro, because that'll be a fun topic. But anyways, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton for me. Ben had Kenshawn Judkins and Mr. Jackson Dart. Let's get to your number 4, Ben.
Number 4, and last one I was really there for the running back, and this one I'm really there for the quarterback.
Okay.
It is probably one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in college football in a while.
Okay.
Here's Mr. C-Dub, Caleb Williams.
Former Oklahoma Sooner, if you don't remember.
Thanks, dude. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, the guy had 42 passing touchdowns last year. I mean, he was a demon. You bring in Marshawn Lloyd out of South Carolina. Austin Jones is back in that backfield. 1,278 yards last year combined. Raleek Brown. I think he's going into sophomore year.
Yeah.
And he could get PT. I've heard. I was looking at it last night. It was between Jones and Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, even I'm not saying like those like Raleek Brown is going to come in there and like steal RB1, but I mean it's definitely a good option.
No, he saw it.
It's just a really good backfield. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you go with the former Heisman winner. I'm going to go with the future Heisman winner, my boy Trey freaking Benson. If you haven't listened to the show,
That is ridiculous.
If you're new to the show, it's a little bit of a running joke here on the show.
It's not a joke. You believe that.
I don't believe that he's going to win Heisman. I said that he is a sleeper to win the Heisman Trophy this year.
So you believe it?
Maybe. But Jordan Travis, Trey Benson comes in at my number 4 from the Florida State Seminoles.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, Trayshawn Ward does go to Kansas State, so you lose really your secondary back over there for Florida State. Obviously, you're going to have some guys fill that role, but Trey Benson, almost, I think, 800, 900 yards, couple touchdowns last year for FSU. I think Jordan Travis is one of the most dynamic and versatile quarterbacks in college football. He can get it done with his legs. Showed that against Florida last year, and really all season, but can get it done with his arm. I think he's going to improve vastly in 2023. Like, I think a lot of people have that same mindset that he's going to take a huge step this season. But, I mean, I really do like these guys. Trey Benson can receive out of the backfield a little bit, and yeah, man, Jordan Travis, Trey Benson. I know we talked a lot of Florida State Seminoles this offseason, preseason, whatever it may be. But FSU comes in at number 4, Travis, Benson, and our boy Ben.
Yeah, and I have my list set, and then I was looking at it. I was like, all right, let's switch it up a bit. Drew's number 4 is my number 3.
Okay.
Jordan Travis. We're getting into these teams where there's actually both good quarterbacks and RBs.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Travis was great last year. Trey Benson was great last year, and they are all looking at upside.
Yeah.
And developing well. So, I mean, this duo could be amazing. You've said both of them are Heisman candidates. I wouldn't say.
I would say Heisman dark horses. I would say both of them are Heisman dark horses. Trey Benson obviously lower
Travis
on that
more
list.
than Benson,
Sure.
but I could see a thought of both of them. You know?
Yeah.
Or like a look at both of them. So, I mean, I think both of them are quality players that can help you win ball games, and I think they both did that well on this team.
Yeah, we're going to get down to my number 3. Obviously, your number 3, like you said, similar to my number 4, the exact same to be exact. But let's get down to my number 3. We talked about it pre-show, and I'm actually going to switch it up on you here, looking over the list.
That's what I did too. It's fine.
I'm going to go number 3. You talked about him already, the Ole Miss Rebels, Jackson Dart and Kenshawn Judkins. I'm really high on Kenshawn Judkins, just like obviously a lot of people, like Ben said, debatably top running back in college football. If not, he's certainly number 2, I would say, behind Blake Corum. So I really like Kenshawn Judkins. I think he's a guy who has potential to run for 800, 1,800, 1,900, 2,000 yards, which is absolutely absurd in the college football world. He's big, physical, he can punch it in, but his speed also, man. I mean, he's just so dynamic. Videos of him in training camp, fall camp, practice, all that stuff look really promising, really quick feet. I mean, it's just unbelievable how freak of an athlete this kid really is. Really like Kenshawn Judkins at Ole Miss. Been like you said, Jackson Dart, guy expect to take a step up. Wasn't bad at all. I mean, around a 2,500-yard passer, just under 20 touchdowns last year. So the guy wasn't bad. The guy was solid. He can get out and run a little bit. I know he definitely punched a few in on the ground. So really do like this backfield. I think you could definitely draw some things up where they both get to run the ball a little bit.
Yep.
And I know Lane Kiffin, all those guys, they're going to have this backfield dynamic. My top two, I would definitely put over them. But I know you touched on them already, but I really do like this duo.
Right, and going into number 2, I'm glad I could talk first.
Frick.
Because I think we have the same.
Yeah, 2 and 1. Yeah.
I've got KJ Jefferson and Raheem Sanders.
Boo, you stole my answer.
Drew's favorite team in college
I got
football.
him going 10-2. If you're new to the show, I got him going 10-2. I'm vocal. I got Southern Boy Sports is vocal over on Twitter. That we freaking believe
I've been
in.
high on this team since like 2 years ago.
That's true. You were high on him last year as well.
Last year, I was super high on KJ Jefferson. I love what he does. He was amazing, and Raheem Sanders is still slept on. It's unbelievable how people still are like,
Yeah.
like he had almost 1,500 rushing yards last year and 10 touchdowns. So I mean, and they're all
And he
improving.
was hurt a little bit.
They're all improving. They're all developing. They're all coming together more. And I mean, these players have been this core for like 3 years on Arkansas.
Yeah.
And they are ready. I think KJ and him could definitely somehow like improve by a lot.
Yeah, no, I like. We already did an Arkansas team preview. I know I keep kind of shouting out other episodes, but it is winding down on the preseason. So if you want to hear your team talked about, more than likely we talked about them. Unless you're the irrelevant Pitt fan getting at us over on Twitter, like, what are you even talking about? Going to finish top 3 in the ACC? I mean, that's just ridiculous. Like, it was a list by College Football Blue Bloods or whatever his name is. We have a bone to pick with that guy, but we're going to leave that out.
We're just gonna.
It was number 1 was.
He said Oklahoma State was better than Oklahoma.
And then proceeded to put Oklahoma State 14th on his Big 12.
That baffles me.
Yeah, anyways. So he has. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, he had Pitt number 3, finishing
and then
number 3.
Like Virginia Tech at
in
like
the ACC.
4.
Yeah, Virginia Tech at like 6. Duke and Louisville at 10 and 11. Wake Forest at 12. It was just. Anyways, yeah, Pitt fan was like, "What are you even? I'll bet money on this. I'm gonna bookmark this." And I just sent back the meme of Mike. Sent back the meme of Mike Tomlin, where he's like, "We do not care." So I mean, it was a ridiculous conversation to even have. But Ben, like you said, you already harped on him. The Arkansas Razorbacks did talk about him on a past episode. Really like the team. Really like KJ. Really like Raheem. I think this is one of the more balanced quarterback-running back duos. Like I think this 1-2 punch is probably the most even on this list, beside Jordan Travis and Trey Benson, almost. Yeah. And like you said, 1,500-yard rusher from Raheem Sanders. KJ Jefferson was a dog on the ground. I mean, just like 6'5".
I mean, this guy's that's the definition of a dual threat right there.
He can get out, run, and yeah, like you said, definitely a dual threat. So I think I like Isaac Tesla. I like Andrew Armstrong. I like Varkey's Oh wow. Not Varkey's Combs. Varkey's Gums coming over from North Texas. And yeah, I mean, I just like this team all around. I think they've got just enough weapons out wide to kind of take the thinking away from Raheem and Jordan, or Raheem and KJ in the backfield, and then they bite you when you're not expecting it. I think they got a schedule that sets up to play some subpar defenses, and I think these boys are going to run wild. Number 2 on both of our lists here on episode 57 of the show, KJ Jefferson and Raheem Sanders.
Now, number 1. I think everybody knows who it is. I hope you know who it is. It's including of the top running back in college football.
Sure.
Potentially, I would say there's 2 top 5 running backs on this team. I think you could debate that for sure.
Debatable, yeah.
And it is the Michigan Wolverines. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are absolute dogs in the backfield. They combined for 2,454 yards last year and 25 touchdowns, with Blake Corum being hurt. So, I mean, they're a great duo. J.J. McCarthy is a very viable and he's a quality quarterback for this team.
He was young last year, but
he did what he needed to do. Michigan was a solid team, and he's improving this year. So, I mean, dude, this could be a team. This team can compete with Georgia this year.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about, overall, like, how we think the season's going to play out. Again, talked about Michigan on an individual episode and Big Ten East expectations, talked about them and all that. But J.J. McCarthy, like you said, I think he's a little bit more than a game manager. I mean, I think if you definitely let him grow, he's going to be a guy who can really get out, run, throw on the run, be dynamic in the pocket as well. So I like J.J. McCarthy. I think he got a little bit too much flack last year for being just like an average mid game manager. I think he's definitely a little bit more than that. Showed what he could do as a sophomore. I mean, that's impressive. And then, like you said, Ben, I mean, but the best dynamic duo in the backfield in all of college football and all of college football in a while. Blake Corum was 1,000-plus yards last year. I want to say 10-plus touchdowns as well. Obviously, Donovan Edwards, absolute beast, receiving threat. You can throw him in the slot. You can throw him in the backfield. You can run option plays with this backfield. Just really, really high on this backfield, obviously. And I think anyone who covers college football, Benjamin, would have these boys number one. And
What's up with you and Benjamin?
I know I've said it a lot. But no, the listener of the show will be happy that we have the Michigan Wolverines at number one. Ultimately, been very high on them this offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's there's no reason to not be.
Sure.
Honestly, I mean they have that. This team has everything, and so the Michigan Wolverines are looking up.
And speaking of, this is way off topic. We're going to go on a little bit of a windy path here before the three-team previews. But this just has me thinking. Obviously, we're talking about had me thinking about fantasy football. And how are you looking at fantasy football this year, Ben?
Amazing.
I know listeners will probably respond pretty well to the fantasy football talk. I know a lot of listeners do play fantasy football.
There is college football, fantasy football.
It's just not as good.
What if we did like a
listener entry? Sure. I feel like college football is just like
there's too many players. There's too many players.
There's a ton of players, and it's so obscure for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
we did it a few years ago.
People who are just casuals will know about the NFL. Right, and you might not have the best teams because you're not keeping up with rookies. Like you're not getting Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Bijan Robinson, even like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, like all those guys who are just kind of under the radar. All guys that but I'm just saying he's an under the radar player. If you're a casual,
he just named his whole fantasy team. Right?
And I mean, hey, I drafted a lot of rookies. I took Bijan, I took Jordan Addison, I took
Jahmyr
Gibbs, and we're gonna hope it plays out. So it should be fun, and it's also cool. I know we've probably said it a couple times, but like we talked about all those guys last year, covered their college or the last half of their college career on the podcast, and now they're making a difference in the NFL. So it kind of helps helps my NFL knowledge. I know you're the NFL guru of the group, but it helps my NFL knowledge to see those guys go to college. Like the only reason I know Rashad Bateman to be a beast receiver and Tyler Johnson of Tampa Bay. It's just because I've seen the guys play at Minnesota, right? You know, I remember these quarterbacks who played in the preseason because I watched Aiden O'Connell play at Purdue, right? I watched Tommy DeVito play at Illinois and all these just random guys that a lot of casual NFL fans and really NFL fans in general just won't know about. They don't keep up with the college game.
Right, and I mean, it kind of gives us an edge. You know, we've seen a lot,
Sure.
It's kind of saying, we've seen a lot of film of these guys. You know, we've watched plenty of games with them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, watching Jordan Addison. I watched plenty of USC games last year. I mean, he was hurt half of them. Even Pitt. Just watching these players play, you know, you kind of get a sense, and you kind of sense of how they'll do in the NFL.
Yeah.
I can tell you, Bijan Robinson.
He's just gonna be good.
He's just gonna be good.
And I hope this doesn't get clipped.
I feel like anybody could. I feel like anybody could say that.
Yeah.
I feel like he is RB3 on the depth chart right now.
There's no Ty Algier, and who else do they even have?
Cordero Patterson. He is RB3 on
I bet they'll flex Cordero Patterson out wide now that they have Bijan.
Yeah.
Did they release the official team depth chart?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sheesh.
I mean, he's a rookie.
True, but I mean, I have him on my fantasy team.
No, that's why Drew's saying sheesh.
He's starting my running back. My backup is Brian Robinson Jr., though, the former Alabama
terrible.
standout. So terrible.
No,
he got shot and came back and was absolutely dirty.
You can't say that after I called him terrible.
He did. Just use it against you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, he was good last year though. He was quality.
He was quality. But anyways, enough of the fantasy football talk. Enough of the NFL football talk. I'm gonna sneeze.
Well, let's move on. Our first team, the Washington Huskies.
The Washington Huskies. I'm gonna try and figure this one out and not sneeze. And
out of the Pac-12, you know, I'll start it off then. You know, they're a quality team. You know, Washington showed plenty of signs last year of being a great ball club, and so for me, I'll give my ceiling and floor and the prediction.
Go ahead.
I've got the ceiling at 11-1, floor at 8-4. I've got them going 10-2. Okay. I've got the losses to USC and Oregon, but I think they'll be a quality team this year.
Sure. Sorry, I'm gonna pull up their schedule real quick just so I'm not out of the loop here. Because usually I write down wins and losses and all that.
Yeah, you know, I didn't feel like doing that. I just wrote losses. You know, honestly, The losses are what matter. I could tell you that I think they will beat Utah and Oregon State, but it'll happen. And you can kind of look at the schedule yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go alongside with you though. Ceiling, I do have this ceiling. This team's ceiling is 11-1, and I am really intrigued to talk about Washington here in just a second, but we'll get to it. The floor for this team is 7-5. I think the floor for this team is 5 losses, and prediction for me and the Washington Huskies is 10-2. I think worst case scenario, you drop Michigan State, you drop Oregon, you drop USC, Utah, and Oregon State. That hands you your 5 losses.
I would see more like I think Arizona or Arizona State could get them more than Michigan State.
Maybe they do come in there
at Michigan State
and sneak up on them earlier in the season. You never know. But I don't think they go 7-5. I think they go 10-2. And I think those losses, it really could bounce around. I mean, home against Oregon, at USC, and at Oregon State. I mean, those are not easy road environments, especially Oregon State, definitely a slept-on environment. And, at Arizona, they get a couple guys. Justin Flo comes over out of the portal, and they get a couple guys. James DeLore. You just never know. It is college football, and that's what's so weird about talking about them. But, you never know. Like I said, I do have Washington going 10-2, and I do like Michael Penix. But it is a tough schedule. Very loaded and very, very top-heavy. Pac-12, once you get down to Cal, Washington State, Stanford, those are really auto wins. You could say, but Oregon State, Utah, USC, Washington, Boise State, and Michigan State.
Washington
State, yeah. Those aren't gimme games, and that Apple Cup last year was not a gimme for Washington.
Yeah, and they this year, if they can improve on the defensive side of the ball, they can win. They can win games. They can win games.
Sure.
And last year we saw the offense was clearly the key part. Number 1 passing offense in the country. So we know what they're going to do. They're going to pass the ball.
Michael Penix threw for 4,600 yards.
That's just unbelievable.
And dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about if they make the playoff this year, hypothetically, all of this is obviously hypothetically.
Heisman.
But if they make the playoff this year,
Heisman him
and play in the playoff, and he throws for the same, he could get up near 5,000 yards with an extra game.
He almost did
in the Pac-12 championship and semifinal game.
They weren't in the Pac-12 championship, so that adds another game.
That's probably 200, 300 yards plus.
Potentially 3 other games.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. And I'm not saying that they're going to make college football playoff. Not saying that they're going to make the Pac-12 championship.
Implying, yeah.
But if he does, that could be a historical season passing the football.
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer, absolutely. Love the guy.
Picked up this ball club ever.
He has. He really turned this team around. Came over from Fresno State. Obviously, ran a pretty good little offense over there. Definitely a solid team in the Mountain West. He had Jake Hayner, developed him to a pretty good level. Obviously, he's now playing for the New Orleans Saints. So, he's done his due diligence so far with Michael Penix.
Yeah.
4,600 yards, 31 touchdowns, limited interceptions. He's a lefty, got out, slung the ball. Big step up from what he did at Indiana. Obviously, I know we've talked about his career there, but it wasn't too hot. And honestly, I really like Washington this year. I will have some concerns about their expectations, what people think of them. But talking about Washington does remind me. Remember when we met that lady on the bus in Orlando?
Yes, I do. I do.
Who was talking about Washington? We were kind of like, yeah, they're cool. But
we thought she was about to be a casual, but she
knew her stuff, man. She knew her stuff. She's like, Michael Penix, Roma Dunzy. Both those guys are really good. And I was like, all right, man. You got it. This is like a 56-year-old lady at Universal. So
she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, she knew her. Maybe we should have her on as a guest.
There's absolutely zero way we find her.
No, it would be an impossible.
I will say they do lose Wayne. Taulapapa.
Yeah.
Taulapapa. That's interesting. There's some college football gives you the weirdest name.
No, it does, man. It does. It gives you some tough ones to pronounce. We try and do our best always, though.
Taulapapa.
You got to say we always try our very best out there.
Right.
And go ahead.
Cam Davis coming in as a starter, or Dylan Johnson. They got out of the portal from Mississippi State.
Okay.
Cam Davis had 13 touchdowns last year as a backup.
Sheesh.
So look, he just steps in that starting role. He could put up some touchdowns. The 11 that Taulapapa had.
Yeah.
Could be handed to him, and that's a lot of touchdowns right there. I will tell you that is a good running back to build on with this amazing offense or passing.
I think if you can punch the ball in, or at least run the ball with consistency like they did last year, and they bring in a portal back, and they bring in a guy who can run the football. They have guys in the system who have been around the system, and that always helps. But if you can take the pressure off Michael Penix and Roma Dunzy and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk and all those guys, you're not forced to throw the ball 50 times a game. If you can mix it up a little bit, like you said, get Cam Davis involved, and at least run the ball really effectively in the red zone, I think this team's going to be really hard to stop.
What is the max pass rating you can get? What is it? It's like
153, 156, something like that.
I think it was 156. I mean, Michael Penix last year had a 151 passer rating.
That's crazy.
That's unbelievable.
QBR, right? That's QBR?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's 153.8, maybe?
I think it's 156.3.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's somewhere up in the 150s.
It's something crazy. I mean, that is a great. That is a great.
I mean, you're completing passes. You're being consistent. You're throwing for a lot of yards. Obviously, threw for a lot of touchdowns last year. And I was actually rewatching the Alamo.
158.3.
Okay. Rewatching the Alamo Bowl, I believe, from last year. Was that Washington, Texas, or was that the Texas Bowl? I believe it was Alamo, because Texas would be Big 12 and SEC. Alamo Bowl from last year, really fun game to watch. Yeah. I know Texas had an interception on Michael Penix, but I mean, it was so fun to watch him throw the ball. I mean, the lefty just airing it out all the way down the sideline.
Pac-12, man, I'm so excited.
I am. Last year, man. It brings a tear to your eye. It does.
Like, seriously, all they needed to do was get this TV deal.
And I was talking to somebody about it. I can't remember, but I was saying, like, we're going to have to tell our kids, like, yeah, there's this thing used to be called the Pac-12, and it just, like, totally evaporated. Crazy. Like, it's going to be crazy to have to tell people about that. And, like,
good thing is we did kind of miss a lot of the best Pac-12. I wouldn't say it's a good thing.
What do you mean, like
when USC was USC?
Yeah, like Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, all those guys. Yeah, and I mean definitely just missed all those guys like prime time Pac-12. But I mean we still saw a lot of good Pac-12 teams.
This last year it's going to be absolutely
it's going to be fun
to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So I mean, yeah, like I said, at wide receiver to help Michael Penix out, Rome Odunze, probably one of the better wide receivers in the Pac-12, and that's saying something. Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, two guys who are going to help him out. So they do bring back a lot, and it's not even like they bring back a lot of starters, which is semi-true. But they do limit transfers. I think Kalen DeBoer wanted to stick with what they got in the system. And on defense, right? They lose their leading tackler, Mr. Alex Cook, but they return Alfonso Tupatala, second leading tackler, 71 solo tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery. The guy was just all over the field. Yeah. Really good secondary. I like Jabbar Muhammad. Whoa. Forgive me. Jabbar Muhammad, transferred in from Oklahoma State. Yeah. Not to mention the safety, Asa Turner, third leading tackler, key in the secondary. Had a couple interceptions as well last season, Ben. So I like the secondary. I like what Kalen DeBoer has done with this team. He definitely brought back a lot of guys who were system players. And if you want to talk about returning a lot of players, building a program, bringing back a lot of players, I think Washington did a phenomenal job. And I got a couple questions to end it off, maybe a couple discussion points, but go ahead and finish out the roster preview.
The one sad part is the offensive line is you keep your both tackles, but the 3 interior offensive linemen are all gone. So it is going to be you are going to have to build that interior, build in the trenches, and get it done. And a guy you didn't bring up, Balin Trice.
Okay. Yeah.
He had 10 sacks last year. I mean, he's a dog.
That's
and
beast numbers,
the defense was. This is the part that makes Washington debatable.
And we actually, somebody earlier, not talking about college football, but did say the best defense is more offense, and I think that's definitely kind of the angle that Washington took at it, alongside Ohio State and Tennessee. Like all those teams, kind of capped out though. Like they kind of realized we're gonna have to stop teams, right? Like Washington was a 10-2 football team. Tennessee was a 10-2 football team, gave up 60-plus points to South Carolina. Ohio State didn't make the playoff, but they gave up 45 points to Michigan, and then still almost won the game that they gave up 46 points to Georgia in. So it's like the defense is going to have to improve for a lot of these teams, and I think Washington being one of those teams, right? If this defense is at least good enough, and I heard Josh Pate talking about the same thing against USC, or talking about USC, and so shout out, credit to whatever, but he was just saying, if this USC defense could be top 50, he was talking about the floor of this team. If this USC defense could be top 50, they compete for a national title. If this USC defense is terrible and the guys in the secondary and the guys that they brought in through the portal don't pan out, this team could be an 8-4 team, 9-3 team. Because at the end of the day, I mean, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, even that Utah spread out offense, like all those teams are good enough to beat USC on a bad day for USC's defense.
His quarterbacks could cook.
Sure. So I do think that Washington is going to have to be a team who improves on defense. Yeah. Like you said, like I said, I guess Jabbar Muhammad, Asa Turner, like all those guys are going to be keys. But they're going to have to get some guys who are going to step up, make plays. And, 13 sacks doesn't freaking hurt anything. But the biggest key for Washington, all right, and we'll close it off here. The biggest key for Washington is just getting over the hump. Getting over the hump of being like above average in the Pac-12 and winning games you need to win, maybe upset a team or two, and just outright being the best team there. You know what I mean? And if you go 11-1 and lose to USC and that's your season, I think you got to be really happy with that. I mean, you're playing at a very. I know people say that the Pac-12 is kind of weak on average, but this year, if you keep up with college football at any capacity, this Pac-12 is loaded. So for Washington to have 11-1 season, whether that loss is to Utah, to Oregon, to USC, like I said, I can see them losing one game. Like I said, I think that is their ceiling, is 11-1.
Yeah.
I just don't see this team going 12-0. I think there's too many questions on defense, but I think this team could potentially, if they can get over that hump and remove themselves from the above average / contending category to just straight up contending football team, there's no reason this team isn't in conversation for a college football playoff contender.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is, like you're saying, getting over that hump in the Pac-12, man.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 is a very open but also closed conference this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that there is room to be one of those top teams. We've had Utah in it. Utah and USC have been in it, and Utah can be overtaken by a team like Washington, like a team like Oregon. So I mean, USC, I would say I could be pretty positive that we see them in the Pac-12 championship. But this last team is open for anybody.
You mean USC?
Who did I say?
Utah.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, it's still. I mean, they are back-to-back Pac-12 champions. So it's like.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean,
still,
like you said, I mean, defense.
Yeah.
USC has to have that defense, and they haven't, but people are expecting it.
Sure.
So I mean, but these spots in the Pac-12 championship are open to anybody.
Yeah.
So you get over that hump, you be better than the teams you have to be to. You be better than that teams.
Be better than teams you have to.
You have to be better.
You're vying for that spot with.
And you are playing for a spot in the Pac-12 championship and potentially a spot in a pretty good bowl game.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, if you go out here and go 12-0, and this defense is really, really good, Michael Penix elevates even more, wide receiver core elevates even more, and you get production from Gan Davis, that backfield, maybe they are a team who is good enough to go 12-0 and push for the college football playoff. I personally do not see it, but why is this team could be a Rose Bowl potential team if they max out their potential. You know what I mean? And I guess not max out, because if this team maxes out potential, maybe they do make a college football playoff. If they don't max out potential and they get right up to that brink, go 11-1 maybe, with a loss, lose the Pac-12 championship, get into a Rose Bowl, I think that is an unbelievable year 2 for Kalen DeBoer. And I think Kalen DeBoer, quite honestly, is one of the more slept-on coaches in all of college football.
Yeah.
I mean, he took this team from, I want to say 4-8, 3-9, to a completely brand new team, brought in Michael Penix, developed Rome Odunze, has developed some of this wide receiver core, and has brought this team from the freaking cellar of the Pac-12 to a team who's now in conversations in only a second year for in contention for the college football playoff. You want to talk about Brian Kelly, you want to talk about Josh Heupel, and that's all good and dandy. They've both done a phenomenal job. But Kalen DeBoer is slept on as crap, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and we've seen it. He's been doing it recruiting. Last week I said something wasn't sure about the future after Michael Penix. So I said Michael Penix has a bright future.
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean. Yeah,
they have recruited a 4-star quarterback. So I mean they're setting it up.
Doing their job. Yeah.
And I mean, or you find somebody in the portal like Michael Penix, and I mean they found him. They've turned him into an absolute gem of a player. And like you're saying, his Indiana days, maybe not
so bright,
not so gem, but he's improved. And I mean, Kalen DeBoer seemed to be pretty good at that one.
Yeah.
So I think he's a very good head coach, and he's good at developing these players.
Yeah, like this team, Washington, Boise State, week 1, definitely a game I'm going to be tuning into over on ABC. And should be a really, really fun team to watch here in 2023. Ben, any closing up thoughts on the Huskies?
Nope.
I know we've been wanting to talk about this team for a while. Snuck them in there at the last second. Yeah, definitely snuck them in there at the last second. But, I was talking about the Rose Bowl earlier. I wanted to get this in before we go to a different conference and then go back to the Pac-12 ultimately. Last year, the Rose Bowl, Ben. Take that in. Because 2024 is going to be a college football playoff bowl game. So it's going to be part of the 12-team playoff. It could be, I'm sure they'll try and keep it a little bit traditional.
I mean, still not the last year of the Rose Bowl.
But, still, the last year of Big Ten, Pac-12 Rose Bowl in Pasadena on 4:30 on an afternoon day, that is college football at its finest. Christian McCaffrey played in that Rose Bowl, man. Last year even, Utah and Penn State, really good game. Yeah, it had been in the playoffs. I know y'all played against Georgia. That was a friggin' barn burner of a game. So, yeah, Rose Bowl is gone. Technically, traditional Big 12, Pac-12 type stuff. Big 10, Pac-12 type stuff.
We will miss the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, we will. But 12-team playoff,
it'll still be
debatably still good for the game. So, let's go to the ACC, though, Ben. Let's go to the ACC. I know we talked about Pitt, their chance of winning. We've talked about Florida State. We've talked about North Carolina already this season. let's talk about a team who's traditionally been very good in the college football playoff era.
Yeah.
A team that brings in a new OC, and that is the Clemson Tigers. You want to go ahead and start us off with your ceiling, floor, and prediction?
Ceiling is 11-1. You know, there are a few games on the schedule where they could 100% win all those games, but I think there's one guaranteed loss in there.
Okay.
Floor, I got 8-4. Prediction is at 10-2. I've got the losses to FSU and UNC. And, you know, Drew was saying, like, those are super basic losses. You know, those are the two best teams on their schedule. And, like, I understand that. But I feel like Clemson has been a very straight-up team this year.
Yeah.
Or in the past.
In the past.
And, I mean, I could see a Notre Dame loss. I could see you flipping in. Like, you were talking about Duke. Duke, that dude seems could do something. South Carolina could do something. But I've got the two losses there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's get to my ceiling for this team. I think it's 12-0. I mean, I think at the end of the day, and it is weird just because we have seen Cade Klubnik play, and he wasn't great. What are you looking at me like that
I really
for?
don't like that.
But, I mean, I think if Cade Klubnik comes out a new player, I think it's just a completely different story.
I think there's too many losses on that schedule. They're just like...
I think they could beat FSU if Cade Klubnik has a bad... I mean, this team is still good.
I don't think at Miami could be a loss.
It could be.
At NC State could be a loss.
Could also be a win. I think they could win any of these games on the schedule.
Right. But you can say that about so many teams.
North Carolina.
You can say about so many teams.
Sure. But I just think in Clemson, you get two tough games. If you win those two tough games, you're 12-0. In your
four
mind.
Tough games in my mind.
But you have them going 10-2. So those two tough games for you are FSU
right, but with
North
my
Carolina.
prediction, I'm also saying that I think they will win two tough games.
Who are those two tough games? Miami and
I would say
NC
at
State?
South Carolina and Notre Dame.
Okay. In Notre Dame, it is a toss-up. But I'm saying best case scenario, Cade Klubnik is a dog. Will Shipley continues to be a beast. Wide receiver core develops. Ceiling, top, tippity-top, play to the top of your potential. Garrett Riley is a beast. You're 12-0. Floor, though, is 6-6. So if we want to go to the opposite end of that spectrum, they lose to Duke, they lose to FSU, they lose to Notre Dame, they lose to North Carolina, they lose to Florida State, and they lose to Miami or NC State. Completely logical as well. My prediction, though, for this team is 10-2. And I'm not sure who those losses are to. I would say I'm almost propelled to say Florida State and Duke or Florida State and Notre Dame. I just think that I don't know. I feel like I might switch up on myself because I almost think I said North Carolina loses to this team earlier on.
That is one hard part for me doing all this.
I have to go
back to like my notes and like find like because I did go back and I was like, oh, I said UNC was going to lose to Clemson, so I was like, or was going to beat Clemson, so I was like, okay, I have to put UNC up here.
Yeah.
Now I have to put FSU up here.
I mean, it's just so tough. I think Duke, North Carolina, Florida State, and Notre Dame are all four teams that potentially could beat them. I don't know who those losses are to, quite honestly.
No, that's fair.
But I think they do lose two to those games. I'm almost propelled not to say Notre Dame, but I'm not going to put it past them to lose to South Carolina. Not going to put it past them to lose the opener to Duke. I even had FAU Clemson as a trap game when we did those trap games a couple episodes ago. And more than that, I think it's like 47 or 48 we did trap games.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, yeah.
So, anyways, Cade Klubnik, we talked about him, aforementioned here on the episode. Almost 700 yards last year, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, absolutely terrible. Saw him in limited action. Obviously, I saw him play more because he played against Tennessee. I mean, I know you watched the whole game, but I'm just saying.
You were probably a bit more dialed into it.
Played the full Orange Bowl, lost the game, did not look good, did not look too hot.
You know, when I look at it, DJ wasn't that bad.
He just looked worse than he was.
2,500 yards. I mean, that's not good at all. 22 touchdowns, 7 picks.
I mean, that's really not bad. That's Jackson Hart numbers.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think obviously, I think stats. You can look at stats and then you can look at how they play. So I mean, that's obviously.
DJ just took too many sacks, threw too many untimely interceptions. Even though he threw 7 picks, it was just like the worst times of the game to throw an interception.
Yeah. He
and I think
22 sacks in the season.
And that's what I'm saying. And I think the idea, just thinking that Cade Klubnik could not square away the starting job the moment DJ Uiagalelei started playing like absolute crap is a little concerning. I understand that they brought DJ in as a 5-star. A lot of people were saying bench Trevor Lawrence for DJ earlier on in that season. So it's like a lot of Clemson fans wanted to see him. Dabo, I'm sure, wanted to see him. We talked about ACC Media Days last year. Talk about leading up to the season last year. If you remember, Dabo was saying, like, DJ's our guy, DJ's our guy, DJ's our guy. So I think it was a little bit of a pride thing that we're not going to take DJ out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if Cade was good enough to be the starting quarterback at Clemson, he would have been last year. And it's a whole offseason. I understand that. You bring in a very dynamic offensive coordinator who had a Heisman contending quarterback last year. And coming into last year, Max Duggan was not supposed to be a good quarterback. And now we saw him in New York for the Heisman voting. But I'm just not sure about Cade Klubnik. I think he's still a little bit young. Give him a year or two. Maybe he develops under Garrett Riley. Dabo Swinney's got a good track record with QBs. Deshaun Watson. Okay, not off the field, but you know what I mean. On the field, he was fine.
I wasn't going to say anything.
And Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you want to go back to Kelly Bryant. Like, he was still a decent quarterback. Ended up playing at Missouri, yeah. And but no, I mean, I think Cade Klubnik could be fine. I just don't think he's going to be a game-breaking quarterback. Go back to college football. Blue Bloods over on Twitter has him top 3 Heisman contender. That's just a lie. There's just no way that this guy's a Heisman contender. I'd put Will Shipley in Heisman contention before this guy.
It really is. I think last year is kind of it's a weird thing to look at where he was clearly not ready.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
That is another part of why DJ stayed in. I'm not even sure if DJ was ready, but
sure.
But DJ looked better, and Cade, he was a true freshman. I mean, I would say calm down a little bit and give him some time. He definitely could have developed in this offseason. He saw some action against a good team in Tennessee last year.
Yeah, but it was a bad defense, and we made him look really bad.
Aaron Beasley did not make y'all look.
Got a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there was pressure. And he did not handle it. He did not handle it well.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to see how he has developed with that after seeing some action. And I think it'll be interesting. This Clemson team gives the running back room gives him a lot of room to maybe breathe it a little bit. Will Shipley is an absolute dog.
It is, and we'll talk about Will Shipley in a second. But I just want to say, I did mention the quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence, like Deshaun Watson. Then again, Trevor Lawrence had T. Higgins, right? Exactly. Trevor Lawrence had Amari Rodgers. You go back to Deshaun Watson, he had Hunter Renfrow, right? He had all those. Like, you do not have a good wide receiver corps this year, just on paper right now.
Yeah.
Could they turn into a good wide receiver corps? Sure. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to be bad, but on paper, looking at it in the preseason, if you're a Clemson fan, I'm just like this team's just not that good out wide. Adam Randall, Bo Collins, Antonio Williams, and Brandon Spector could have a very, very good season. I'm not saying that Cade Klubnik can't get the ball to him. It's just really, really unproven. Have not seen a ton and tons of action. None of them are bona fide stars. You know what I mean? So it's just you're going to rely on Will Shipley, and I'll let you talk about him first. I know you got a little nickname for him, so go ahead.
Right. Well, me and Drew in the past have talked about who is the white mamba of college football.
Yeah.
I don't remember who you said.
I said the running back from Missouri.
Oh, what was his name?
Don't put me on the spot like that,
man.
brother. I know they have Nathaniel P, and it's he's a dog, man.
He wasn't the one that. He wasn't the one that sold against Auburn.
Yeah,
that was
he fumbled the ball through the back of the end zone. That was a
but it is Will Shipley. Will Shipley is the white mamba.
Sure.
And I think that's very proven.
Yeah.
I think there's a few guys in the NFL that I could you see him, I kind of see Christian McCaffrey.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's very.
I don't think he's as dynamic as a receiver, but I think he's still really good.
I think we can see him turn into that.
Sure.
And Will Shipley has been a very star piece of this team. He is the highlight play that you see for Clemson most of the time. And with Garrett Riley, I think a lot can open up for him. Mm-hmm. A lot can open up for this whole offense. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited to see what they do. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen are returning. There is potential for Will Shipley and Cade Klubnik to just show out.
And I think they obviously, I'm not an idiot. Like, if you go from TCU to Clemson, you're not going to run the exact same plays, the exact same schemes. You're not going to throw the ball up to anybody that we know of yet because you don't have Quentin Johnson, right? You don't have Quentin Johnston. You don't have right now that we know to be a Heisman contending quarterback in Max Duggan to throw the ball to him.
I mean, we didn't know when.
Yeah, sure. And to be a veteran presence in the pocket and take hits for his team to get the ball down the field, right? We don't know if they have a Quentin Johnston. And I think you have a better running back in Will Shipley than you did in Kendre Miller, and that's nothing away from Kendre Miller. I think Will Shipley is going to be a very good NFL back in the future. So I just think you're going to have to go away from a little bit of just like the deep ball, hit Quentin Johnston down the field, because right now we don't know if you have that guy. And I'm not in Clemson camp. I'm not in Clemson fall camp. And there's going to be people probably getting at us saying, this guy's going to be really good down the field. And that's fine. We just haven't seen it too much out of this team. So I think it's going to be a little bit more dynamic on the ground. I think Will Shipley, 15 touchdowns. I mean, he was good in the red zone. He was a physical running back. And like you said, maybe he does get out and run the ball a little bit in space as well. Maybe Austin Eckler, I think, would be my comparison to him.
That's fair.
I think that's more of who I see in him.
That's fair.
Obviously not as a top 5 running back in the NFL, but I'm just saying, like,
no, I know
the play style.
I mean, I compared him to McCaffrey, so obviously we're seeing that. And there it goes.
There goes the encyclopedia in the
That
background.
one's on me.
I'll fix it up.
We will move on to the defense now. You know, they do lose 4 All-AC players to the draft. And that one hurts. But, you know, that is something that Dabo has highlighted throughout his career at Clemson, where he has gotten the defensive players. You know, he did lose Todd Bates to, you know, the greatest college football program, Oklahoma, I will say. And so that hurts. But he's still, Dabo Swinney is great at developing these defensive linemen, you know. He's got Tyler Davis, who was a 3-time All-ACC player.
What did he have last year in sacks?
He only had 5.5.
But I mean, only. I mean, that's
but as a nose tackle, I mean, that's very
5.5
good.
sacks you're getting through.
You get pressure, you get those sacks, and I mean, they have 2 great linebackers. You know, I'll save the linebackers for you because you know you got very excited talking about this guy. But the secondary was a problem. It was 76 nationally. And it is led by Nate Wiggins. I mean, they're going to need to step up.
If I'm not mistaken, going into last year, you had lost guys like Andrew Booth and all those guys in the secondary. So it was more of a rough season.
Maybe a transition year for the secondary. Yeah. So they're hoping to look better.
Yeah, and the defensive lineman first that I want to talk about. I know we talked about him, or at least I talked about him in the Breakout Stars episode back in the 30s or 40s numbers of episodes. If you listen to that one, shout out to you for sticking along with us. But Peter Woods is my guy. I mean, 4 or 5-star defensive lineman. He's like 6'5". He's coming out of the state of Alabama. And he's going to be a beast up front, man. Like you said, he's got the potential. Dabo Swinney does, or at least he's proven. Obviously, like you said, does lose Todd Bates. But, I mean, Brian Brzee, Miles Murphy, all those guys, especially more recently, not to mention guys who also get pressure on the quarterback, whether it's Isaiah Simmons, so be it. Like, he has produced guys on defense to the NFL, and I think Peter Woods is no different. I think you're going to get a lot of potential out of this guy. You lose Henry, like I said, Brzee, Murphy. Like, you're going to be looking for a guy to fill that void. I know you got guys up front, but I think Peter Woods is the guy I want to focus on because, like you said, you lose 4 All-ACC defenders, not to mention a couple more guys also leave. So, key piece, middle linebacker, or I guess a linebacker, is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Like you said, got really excited talking about the guy, absolute beast. Leading tackler for the Tigers last year, 89 tackles. 13.5 TFLs, not to mention 2 picks and a forced fumble, which 2 picks for a linebacker is dynamic, man. I mean, that's definitely, you're very versatile at the linebacker spot. 1 forced fumble, hard-hitting guy. I like Jeremiah Trotter. He's going to be the root, the key. I'm not in that locker room, so I don't know if he's as vocal as the leader, but he's going to lead by example because I really do like this kid. Have potential to get up by 100 tackles and hopefully make an All-ACC team at the linebacker spot. So I like him. You mentioned the secondary. I like Jalen Phillips back there, man. He's a grad, he's a grad player, so he understands, right? He's a veteran, and had an interception, three pass deflections last year, and was the second leading tackler. So it's like there is bright spots on this defense. Just got a lot of voids to fill. Yeah. And I know they're bringing a couple transfers here and there, but none of them are just immediate impact guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this team. I keep on bringing it up, but Dabo has been good at stuff like this. Dabo is a very quality head coach, very great head coach in college football, and he knows what he's doing.
But is his unwillingness, and I know it's a big hot topic in college football, but is his unwillingness in the portal going to come back to bite him?
Probably.
Because you're not getting as many guys out of the portal. This was the year
to get guys in the defensive portal, and I think, is it the team we talk about next? The team we talk about next did this on the defensive side heavily.
And it really just... I know we haven't seen the teams play. So for all we know,
right? I mean, they might have guys in that
locker room who are going to step up from second or third teamers last year to just be dogs this year. We're not in fall camp. We don't have have ACC media passes, unfortunately, to talk to Dabo Swinney and say, hey, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about this guy? All we can do is look on paper, find other people who have done their job. Shout out to them for feeding us that information from inside Clemson camp, whatever it is. And Dabo's just not hitting the portal. That's just a fact. He said he wasn't going to be around. If they opened up an aisle like they have, they opened up the portal like they have, and they did do it, and he showed an unwillingness to hit the portal, and that's going to come back to bite them. Because you want to talk about hot topics in the portal, wide receiver weakness. Defensively, really the secondary. I think Florida State improving the secondary, Louisville improving the secondary, UNC improving the secondary from the portal. Like if Clemson's not improving alongside these teams, their defense is going to start getting bad. And if you're not getting receivers, you're going to have to wait a while and produce within, which is fine. But it's a little bit of a different strategy nowadays in college football, as sad as it is, because why? For example, USC. Yes, you can bring in Zachariah Branch this year, and maybe he is a great receiver. But if you want to look at that on paper, we don't know what Zachariah Branch is going to do at the collegiate level. He could be great. I'm sure he's going to be. He's lightning in a bottle. But why do that and waste time of his development and practice and on the second team and getting limited reps when you can bring Dorian Singer, who is a 1,100-yard receiver at Arizona and a potential Biletnikoff candidate. We know what we're going to get out of Dorian Singer. They did the same thing with Jordan Addison last year. They brought in Mario Williams and Brendan Rice, I think, from the portal, at least one of them. So you want to talk about teams that are hitting the portal heavy? I'm just scared Clemson might fall behind, Ben.
Right, and that's very fair to say. And I mean, like we saw, TCU did that. And they're doing it currently. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of you just have to do what you have to do.
And I mean, Tennessee brought in Jalen Hyatt from USC. They brought in Brew McCoy from Texas and USC.
I mean,
it's just you bring in Dante Thornton, we talked with last week, from Oregon. So at some point, these portal receivers, these portal DBs, if not for starting right now, that's fine. But you're going to have to bring in some guys to fill out the group, get some development going. It's going to have to happen.
Right. And I know the morals and everything, that's perfectly fine.
Sure.
But you're going to have to do what you have to do. And I mean, as a head coach, you have to. Your job is win games.
And maybe if it's not right now, because you bring in Peter Woods, who's going to be more than likely an immediate guy who impacts in some way on this defense. So we're not saying this year Clemson's going to get bit in the butt by a lack of transfer portal guys. But you definitely just lose the opportunity for guys to come in and dominate at one school, like Dorian Singer did at Arizona, and then come into a school who's better and have the same role, if not a little bit of a reduced role, and still be really, really good and immediate impact player. You're kind of banking on guys to break out, and you're kind of banking on guys to develop into stars, instead of, yes, we're going to bring in this 4-star receiver, and instead of needing this guy in 2 years to be an all-ACC top 5 receiver in college football, we just need him to be second or third receiver behind this guy, and then once he's a senior, he elevates his game a little bit more. You know what I mean? So it's just like you don't really have that portal intake. You're losing guys to the portal more than you're gaining guys, I feel like, because they only got a guy or two out of the portal. They got a couple good freshmen. The recruiting classes are going to always be there. Dad was a great guy and a great coach. But like I said, man, you're going to have to start hitting the portal a little bit.
I mean, we've seen it work for them in the past. Like Hunter Renfrow was not like the star-studded receiver.
Sure.
I mean, so it has worked, but the game has changed. Every way of college football has changed right now. NIL players are looking to just go somewhere and
make money.
Where they can make money. You know, people they're just looking for the best case scenario. And I mean, if you're not willing to accept those players in, I mean, it hurts the team definitely.
Like, I think they should have been a player in the game with one of the Michigan State receivers.
I mean, Clemson has a lot going for them.
And they have a great track record of producing receivers. We talked about a couple of them, right? I mean, you want to go back to DeAndre Hopkins, okay? He came out of Clemson. You want to talk about T. Higgins, Hunter Renfrow, like we've talked about both those guys. Amari Rodgers now playing for the Packers. He's an iffy punt returner, but I watch him play every Sunday. So it's like you need to, like, if you would have brought a Keon Coleman in this offseason, and I'm not saying, obviously, NIL played a big part.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Florida State is a bigger market right now. They're hot right now, more hot than Clemson is. I think that's basic information.
Clemson's keeping themselves under the radar.
Yeah.
And it really does kind of hurt you for a 19-year-old's eyes to be like, this team isn't really, I mean, once you talk to them, it's appealing, but maybe when you just look at Clemson, like, it's like, I mean, okay.
But they still, I think what's going for them on the trail, because you bring in 5-star Peter Woods. I know you have a solid 2023 recruiting.
Do you know they bring in Peter Woods?
Coming in. Yes, I did know they bring in Peter Woods, actually. He's going to be a beast if you haven't heard already. But I think just ultimately, I'm not saying that you don't have college football playoff national championships and at least appearances going for you big time.
No,
you produced the NFL talent. I think Dabo Swinney is a really, really, at least top 10 coach in college football.
Yeah.
So it's like you have that going for you, you have the past going for you, but they're going to have to start winning in the present, or you're kind of going to be screwed out of getting a lot of guys you could get to go to Florida State, who has the potential to win now. They've got a great atmosphere. They're hot right now, right? They're going to lose out to teams like an Alabama, who's just a dynasty right now. I would say they're still in that. You're going to lose out to teams like Georgia, who have won back-to-back national championships. You're going to lose out to Miami eventually because it's a bigger brand. You're going to get NIL money down in Miami. And you're going to start losing out to guys like Tennessee, like in Oklahoma, like in Texas down the line, because those teams are going to invade your recruiting territory. So it's like portal stuff.
South Carolina.
Yeah, portal stuff. Recruiting stuff is going to have to go up for Dabo Swinney. I think he's got the potential to do it. Just don't want it to come back, bite him in the butt for Clemson. Enough about the Clemson Tigers. You know what I mean? Enough about the Clemson Tigers. Let's get back to the Pac-12. Started with the Pac-12. Let's get back to it. What are we at, Ben?
I think 58.
Okay.
59, actually, on the dot.
59 minutes. So we'll end off about
1:15, like we did last week.
Yeah. The Oregon Ducks is the final team on the slate for us, Ben.
Ducks.
And if you, like always, want to kick us off, ceiling, floor, and prediction.
I'll go ahead. Ceiling 10-2 for this team. We got the floor at 7-5, and I've got them going 9-3. It's another Pac-12 team where you really it is so open. You can't really blame them for losing 3 games. I have got them losing to USC, Oregon State, and Utah. It's not an easy schedule 100%, and it's a team that I think has the potential to win those games if Bo Nix is going out and he's lighting up the sheet. And, like we were talking about, somehow it brings this offense to beat a USC team and outrun the defense they have there. And so, it very well could happen. I just see some games where I feel like I just think that the other team could come in and maybe, I wouldn't even say Oregon State's like a trap game. But, as we saw last year,
they beat them last year.
They did, and I'm pretty sure they were down 17 or something and came back and won.
Sure.
But, I think that teams in the Pac-12, it is very open to anybody winning, and I think Oregon will not be able to win 10 games.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the ceiling of 11-1. I think this team's really good. I still think you drop one game. Like we've said with Washington, really, really tough Pac-12 schedule, whether it's Washington, Utah, USC, even Oregon State. Talk about them in a second. We play at Texas Tech week 2. So it's that's a game that is honestly not a toss-up. I would say Oregon wins that game. Texas Tech is slept on. I think we both, when we put out our preseason top 25s on social media, I think that we both had Texas Tech top 25. I had them in the top 25. They had them 24.
I don't think I do.
But they're at least
close. I thought of them.
I thought of them. 25 top 30 caliber football team. So it's that's not a gimme game, right? Then you go to Hawaii, Colorado, Stanford, all wins. But my prediction, I said one game better than yours. I said 10-2.
Fair.
So I do think it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be at Texas Tech on Fox. I think it's going to be a really good game. And I think Oregon wins that one on the road. But it's not a gimme, okay? And then 2 games you lose. Hypothetically, I guess at Washington could be a game you lose. And then
I could see at Utah.
At Utah, maybe. And then USC and Oregon State. So, again,
I think they get one of those. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Another team that I don't know who they lose to, but, Utah, even a Colorado team who's a big wild card this year, Oregon State, USC, Texas Tech in the out-of-conference, definitely not a gimme schedule. Definitely not something where it's this team's going to win 11 games. Because if it was a Utah down year like it has been in the past, if Oregon State was terrible like it has been in the past, then you're looking at a dead-on 10-2, 11-1 college football playoff contending team. And like I said, man, their ceiling's 11-1, which would hypothetically, if situations play out correctly, that's a college football playoff berth, right?
Heisman contention from Bo Nix, and that's
what it would have to take more than likely, right? So we talked about him earlier in honorable mentions early back in the beginning of the episode. Bo Nix comes in with a backfield of Noah Whittington and Bucky Irving, who combined for 1,800 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. Bucky Irving kind of carried that load, but I think Noah Whittington tacked on almost 800 yards, right?
Yeah, solid.
Transferred in from Western Kentucky, and he's going to be a guy who next year, when Bucky Irving's gone, because it's going to be the last year of Irving, he's going to have to be a guy who's the guy, right? The guy for Oregon. And I think it's going to be Ty Thompson next year, probably starting at quarterback for the Ducks when Bo Nix is gone. And Bo Nix combined for 43 touchdowns last year. And the kid was a beast. So it's this is kind of the year where you're going to have to do it if you're Dan Lanning. Last year, obviously, suffered a really tough loss week 1 because you didn't have the Jimmy's Joes that Georgia did.
We forget that game.
Yeah, you're just going to have to cross that one off the freaking list of what happened last year.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not by any stretch a bad football team.
No, for sure not. And, me putting them 9-3, not because they're bad at all. It's because they're in the Pac-12. And, honestly, I think that they can lose to any of those teams in the Pac-12, Pac-12 like Stanford and Cal. But those top teams, and it is something where they are good all around the ball. I would say the defense is solid, the offense is solid, and they are led by a great quarterback.
Yeah.
So, having the edge of having a well-rounded team could definitely help them in this Pac-12.
Yeah.
Where we've seen different things. And, they did help Bo Nix in the portal. They brought in Trayshawn Holden and Tez Johnson from Bama and Troy.
Yep.
And so, Will Stein is also the new offensive coordinator from UTSA. And
great hire.
I was looking at something they said. He was like, we really don't like caring about plays and stuff like that. You can always think about that. But they care about the players. They care about who is the best player, and they care about getting them on the field. And, that is something where this Oregon team, I think they're doing well at that. and I think they are looking to excel with those players.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the schedule from 2022, hopping back in time a little bit, if you remember, a loss to Georgia, that's kind of a wipe, like 45-3. I think if they played that game in Week 11, it would be a little closer. I still think Georgia beats them. But
yeah.
obviously, lost to Oregon State, talked about it, 38-34, and then a loss to Washington by 3 points. So, I mean, they lost their two other games by combined, what is that?
5.
Brain's breaking down. Nope. 7 points. Yep. Golly, bro.
1 touchdown.
Yeah, so it's like you go out, you win a really good game, and all your other wins are quite honestly very convincing. At Washington State was a scare, win that game by 3 points, but you beat a top 10 team at the time, UCLA, by 15. You beat Utah by 3. You beat Colorado by 30-plus points. You beat a BYU team who was top 15 in the country by 20. So it's like you handled your business. Yeah, a top 12 team at the time is crazy, but you handle your business. You go out against UNC and win a very, 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 probably one of the best bowl games of last year, the Holiday Bowl.
I love
Gus Johnson.
Yeah. I had to make the graphics, and I think I've said this story. I had to make the graphics, man, and I was trying to do it like early and get it over with.
Yeah,
and it was like I had the score, and then I think UNC scored, and I was like, oh, I got to change it now.
Yeah.
And then with like a minute left, Oregon went down to the score, and I had to change it again. I was like, all right.
It was a great battle. I mean, great uniform.
I love watching that game.
Very aesthetically pleasing, but like that was a really fun game last year.
The bowl games last year were very quality stuff.
They were. Yeah, I would agree.
And
the Cheez-It Bowl y'all played in was a 3-point game. That was honestly. So it was like very, very deep bowl games last year.
Oh yeah.
But you mentioned the portal pickups. Trayshawn Holden, Tez Johnson do come in at receiver, but Troy Franklin is wide receiver 1 at Oregon this year. And I saw a list of top duos. I want to say Bleacher Reporter 24/7, and not running back quarterback, but just duos in general. I mean, this was a top 10 duo in college football in somebody's mind. So.
Nixon and Troy Franklin?
Yeah. So I think this could be a really fun team to watch. Troy Franklin could be a guy who's going to have to step up for, oh my God, blanking. Dante Thornton for sure, and I want to say Seven Banks, but what's his last name?
Seven Banks was the corner.
Yeah, Seven.
And what team did he still
played for Ohio State. What was the receiver's name? Somebody's screaming at us right now because we don't know ball, but
not last year.
So what was his name?
There was Chase Cota.
No, Seven.
Bro, 7 was not anybody that.
Yes, we got the pick of the game. We talked about.
Oh, you're talking about corners. Okay.
No, I'm talking about receivers.
There literally are no receiver. No one got a reception.
Who were number 7 last year?
Oh, number 7.
Yeah.
I think it was. Who was it? 7 McGee.
Okay.
7 McGee.
So it was 7. I told you. I was like,
he had 67 yards.
But he was the one who went deep, went up for the pass by Bo Nix, and got picked off in a diving play.
Malachi Starks.
Yeah, Malachi Starks.
They had Cam McCormick last year.
Yeah.
Who I think is the 8-year where did he transfer
Miami. To? He's 12 years in his college football career. But no, Troy Franklin is a very good wide receiver. You want to go to the defense, brand spanking new secondary, basically. Tyree Jackson, Tyshim Johnson comes over from Ole Miss, but then you get Evan Williams and Nico Reed, and you get a true freshman who's probably going to be your nickelback safety kind of player. All transfers. Dan Lanning hit the portal big time. Top 10 portal class for the Ducks. We're going to see what this defense does.
Yeah, and Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Obviously we saw Dan Lanning. We saw him at Georgia, and we were like, he is a defensive-minded guy.
Yeah.
And, he has the guys on offense. He has to incorporate. He brought in so many good transfers on defense, and obviously he's a guy. I think he sees defensive players well, and he sees what he's
a defensive coordinator at a very good Georgia team.
So he's great Georgia team. So he knows what he's looking at, and he knows what he's looking for. And so if he can put it all together, this team can be good. I keep on hyping up this team and I have them 9-3, but they are a very well-rounded team, and Dan Lanning has been good at his job aside week 1.
Sure.
I think he can definitely
another coach who won 10 games in year 1. That's a big feat. You know what I mean?
We have seen some good head coaches
do great in year 1. Yeah. So, like you said, they do bring in Jordan Birch, do bring in Justin Jacobs from South Carolina and Iowa, respectively. So, wipe this defense clean, basically, because you lose Justin Flo, lose Noah Sewell, and you lose Christian Gonzalez to the Detroit Lions in the NFL. So it's like, kind of got to restart. Christian Gonzalez, obviously a lockdown corner, so you're going to have to replace him, and they try and do that, definitely bring in a couple portal guys out of the secondary. So looking good on defense. I believe in Dan Lanning. I think he's got a great scheme going. He's a defensive-minded head coach, which helps a lot. And And he got busy in the portal and on the recruiting trail, number 9 in both those categories, Ben. So he's out there. He's a player.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he's doing exactly what they hired him to do.
Yeah.
And I see that this Oregon team could be very well in the future.
Yeah. I got him winning 10 games, Ben. You got him winning 9.
Sorry.
So, yeah. Sorry, Oregon fans, for the hate coming over from Benjamin Clay, but whatever. But no, Ben.
Just put me out there on the internet.
But I think that's going to wrap it up here for the 57th episode. It was a nice little over an hour. If you're still listening to this point, we do appreciate you. Make sure, go over. No, I already mentioned it, but we're at like 325 followers over on Twitter. You listen to the end, you must like it. Go follow if you're not already. At @so_boy_sports. Follow over on IG at Southern_boy_sports pod. Follow over on TikTok. Posted some clips from the Dante Thornton interview. Posted some clips from before that as well. All got a pretty good response. We're going to continue to do that. But it's at @so_boy_sports pod over there. Leave us a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. However you're listening, because we're out there on all those platforms now if you haven't heard. So go listen over there. And on YouTube. Trying to get those subscriber numbers up. I know the subscriber count for any big channel is lower than what they have on Spotify and all that stuff, lower than the amount of views. But we would love subscribers and views, and make sure to keep watching our stuff over on YouTube. Put out individual team previews, episode cuts, and all quality stuff. So, Ben, anything else? Close out the episode before I get to the final promos of the show.
I was just thinking, maybe we should just start making the wildest takes of all time.
Yeah, just put them out.
I mean, we get everybody, like we've talked about, college blue bloods. They get the most looks,
It's true, and they just put out crazy stuff.
There's some wild stuff on there, but people look at it, people interact with it. So I mean, Notre Dame over Ohio State, baby.
Yeah, that's Ben's take. So we'll see how it goes. I got Arkansas going 10-2. So there's a good amount of hot takes coming out of Southern Boy Sports, but make sure it's not a hot take to say that these hats are absolutely phenomenal.
Fire.
If you can't see because you're not watching on YouTube, we are talking about University Traditions, the College Station edition of that. But they got great things coming. They have a Missouri hat over there, Magnolia collection, the Oak Tree from the Auburn collection. They're doing a bunch of good things. And if you use code FBS15, you'll get 15% off your purchase, which can do you some justice. I mean, that's $25, $22, $23 instead of $30. And that's always helpful. Save you some money. Go to universitytraditions.biz. Save you some moolah. And code Southern Boys at laststandhats.com. They got officially licensed Texas gear. North Texas, UTSA, Texas State, Texas, like Stephen F. Austin. All the way across the board, all the way across the state. They got some good NIL collabs. Bunch of cool hats over there. So laststandhats.com. Get 10% off your purchase with code Southern Boys. And anything else, close out, objections before we close it out.
No objections.
No objections from the boys. Make sure, like and subscribe, follow us on our socials, and come back because we got week 0 stuff next week. Same time, same place next week. See you, boys.